Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Executive Table Talk. My name is JT O'Donnell. I'm the founder and CEO of Work It Daily and the lucky host of this show. Each and every week, we have amazing executives here sharing their insights on some of the hottest topics going on in the workplace today. And today's a very valuable one. It's called How to Manage Business Relationships. I think relationship building, especially these days, post-COVID, lots of remote work, lots of changes in the workplace. I think it's worth revisiting and thinking about how you are managing these business relationships. Are you doing it effectively? And I couldn't be happier. I've got three of our total veterans, our complete rock stars here back with me today. John Shambari, Lisa Perry, Anna Smith. They really know what they're talking about. I am so excited to dig in on this topic. Remember, if you've got questions for them, pop them in the chat. We'll make sure we answer those before the end. And of course, when you listen to them and fall in love with them, as I know you will, jot their names down and make sure you find and follow them here on LinkedIn. Okay. So with that in mind, John, I'm going to pick on you first. Instead of ladies first, we're going to say gentlemen first. Let's talk about business relationships. You come from this huge background in educational consulting. What are your thoughts on the topic?
Sure. Thanks, JT. So business relationships are everything, especially when you are consulting in a people business, right? So in education, we're not selling a product. We are actually developing and growing people, both students and teachers, and as well as other educators. So it does all come down to relationships. And a couple of things that I think are transferable, regardless of what your industry is how you perceive your business relationships. So I know that we have a tendency to really call upon our networks when we're looking for jobs or when we need something or we want something. But I think the other part of that equation, and which actually makes people want to help us, is when we're helping others when we don't necessarily need them, but we can offer them value. So to keep up with those business relationships, consistently reach out to people, provide them with resources that you know that they might be interested in, even if they did not necessarily ask for those resources. If you have a good relationship with them and you know what makes them tick as professionals, that should give you an idea of what kind of thing or resource they'll find helpful. So that's one tip I have. The other tip I have is, and I know people are different in this regard, but I really enjoy being a connector. I love it when I'm able to connect person A with person B. And if they had known each other or had been in each other's circles, I get an even bigger kick out of being the conduit for that. So again, if you know what makes your business partners tick in terms of the things they're interested in, the things they're trying to do in their careers, the projects they're trying to undergo, connect them with others where you see a connection. Very quickly, I was at a training last week in Georgia, was chatting with one of my colleagues who was presenting in the room next to us, and she was talking very much about SEL and how she's looking for SEL folks. So I had actually had the opportunity to recently be a guest on a podcast with a gentleman who is about social emotional learning, or SEL. So I was able to put the two of them together. Now, it's up to them if they want to actually continue that connection. But again, I think that's an important part of business relationship building, thinking about how to actually make the network larger and wider as well. So those are just two suggestions that I might have for both maintaining those business relationships as well as growing them.
You know, I just love that concept of being a super connector. Like you said, instead of thinking about what's in it for me with each person I meet, I love your thought is who can I put together in my network? And then now two people remember that you're the ones that, introduce them. I think that's just brilliant, John. I'm going to bounce down to you, Lisa. Your background in global marketing, obviously marketing is all about connection and business relationships, but talk to me about what you think is most important to keep in mind and how you expand your relationships.
Yeah, thank you so much. We live in a dynamic business world, and as John so eloquently put, relationships are pivotal to us achieving success. And as I thought about, JT, your question today, I wanted to focus in on the one thing that had the biggest impact. And so whether it is our customers, our suppliers, our partners, or our employees, effective communication is the single most significant factor that can make or break these connections. So when you are managing business relationships, focusing on effective communication can have a significant impact. So here are several communication strategies to consider. One is active listening. It is probably the hardest thing to do because we have 1,000 things going on and we can get distracted and pulled in so many different areas. But by actively listening, giving your undivided attention, you can, understand your stakeholders' needs, wants, and expectations very quickly. The second thing is clarity and simplicity. Being clear and concise in your communication eliminates ambiguity and misunderstanding. I like to use the KISS method. Keep it simple, stupid. I will write out an email and then I'll chop it down by 2/3. I'll do the same thing if I'm preparing for an important conversation. I'll write it out and I'll chop it down by 2/3. The goal here is less is more. The third thing is empathy and emotional intelligence, which play a pivotal role in building strong and authentic relationships. Understanding and acknowledging your stakeholders' emotions through empathetic connections, well, that just builds trust, strengthens your connections, and cultivates genuine connections. And the last thing is timeliness and responsiveness. We live in a digital age and speed is critical. So respond promptly. It shows respect and maintains engagement. So I hope these 4 communication strategies are helpful because they are the foundation of successful business relationships.
Yeah, I love that. You're so right. The communication is key, but thinking strategically about that communication is really what's going to help you move the needle on that for sure. Great stuff. Anna, you come from that executive coaching background, large Fortune 500 companies. What's your thought on business relationships these days?
Wow, just like you said it, JT, and both John and Lisa have brought forward, this is probably, as I was reflecting on today's conversation, this is probably the secret sauce. Where do we start to build relationships and especially to manage relationships, right? Once you start a relationship, what are some of the strategies that you do to keep them going, to keep them live, to keep them effective, efficient, win-win, back and forth, etc. So my first, thought is, do you have a goal around how do you effectively execute on relationship management every single day? Is there something, or every single week, is there something that you have in your calendar on, for example, people that you reach out to? I love what John said relative to, reaching out to people when you need something. Is there an opportunity for you to reach out before you need something and, build that muscle? What specific things are you doing relative to relationship building on a day-to-day, on a weekly, on a monthly basis? You'll be surprised. The rule of 1%, if you get 1% better every day or every week or every month, you're going to be surprised of where you land at the end of the year, of course. So that would be my first thing. Make sure that you have a goal around relationship building, whatever this might be. And there's a nice number of things that can be done there. Number 2, set clear expectations. Once you have a relationship, it is critical that both parties know and understand what's exactly expected of them. I think this is probably one of the number one challenges and issues in business, where, for example, if I take performance management, we sit down for our quarterly or each semester or every year performance review, and then the expectations that my manager had of what I needed to do were completely off, and therefore the relationship starts to deteriorate. And of course, hopefully, if you're a manager or a leader, you are not waiting a year to provide feedback and align expectations with your people. So setting expectations would be extremely, and provide clarity there. Followed by communicating regularly. Lisa alluded and gave us a really nice to the point model on communicating effectively. I would just stress that it becomes regular. You'd be surprised, or maybe not, on how quickly things change in the business world, in our environment, etc. And it's very, very important to have that clarity and understanding before you launch yourself into doing or evolving a big project or taking a big research piece, etc. The third piece is be flexible. You need to be prepared for the fact that things are going to be changing constantly, constantly, and that or those changes might impact the work that you're going to be doing, or the focus that you're going to be doing, or even the results that you're supposed to be giving. You have to be prepared for that, because that might impact how you perceive the relationship on that particular. Last one would be building trust. This is evidently essential, fundamental in any successful relationship, human relationship, and business relationships are not an exception. There's a few things that, of course, and this is like a plant. Trust is like a plant. You have to water it, you have to water it, you have to water it. It's very, very important being consistent, being congruent. Your say-do ratio needs to be present, etc. I wanted to also take another side, if I may, JT, on relationship management, and that is one from organizations, or from an organizational perspective, and going a little bit into Lisa's area of expertise on customer loyalty and retention. I'm reminded constantly about how costly it is to acquire new customers. It is 5 to almost 25% times more to acquire customers than having and keeping happy customers that you already have. So think about the investment that you have to have. If you're a manager, if you're a leader in this space, this can be something that you can think of. Also, remember that a dissatisfied customer will probably tell between 9 and 15 people about their negative experience, versus having a positive one where you probably are going to tell 3 or 4 people. So think about that. Lastly, and reconnecting with John's point around, making sure that you build on those relationships in business. Remember that 85% approximately, according to LinkedIn, of jobs are filled through networking. So that should be a really good indicator of where can you put a nice number or a nice percentage of your efforts on building this. This is not a one-time thing. This is not a doing it twice or 3 times. This is a muscle that you have to have. And therefore, if you think about a superpower that you have to create and have, is relationship building in business. Thank you, JT.
Oh, love it. Love it, Anna. You're absolutely right. It is a superpower. Great points, too, about its impact. So, folks, remember, we're talking about building and managing business relationships today with 3 of our top executive experts that help us here on the Executive Table Talk series. Please make sure you jot down John, Anna, and Lisa's names. Go find them on LinkedIn, ask them to connect, and make sure you mention you saw them on ETT, okay? Now, I want to talk about, first of all, I want to bring up a comment from one of our viewers today. Alexander said, I think the real interest in your partner is very important. Respect in conversation, trust is very important as well. And that leads to something that came up. A couple of people in the comments today said, what do you do when you're trying to build a relationship with somebody who is either angry with you, doesn't like you, isn't a fan, doesn't trust and respect you? And we run into those, whether they're coworkers, disgruntled vendors, whatever it is, we have to deal with those, right? We have to deal with those people. I'm putting you all on the spot, but I would love your perspective on that. Like what techniques you've used, if you've had any experience with that. John's got his hand up first, which is great. So John, you take it away.
So sure. So definitely see that in my career when I'm going in and out of schools and working with different people all the time. So first, and this gets back to what Lisa and Anna are saying about communication. So if you're active listening. So if you're working with people who are not an immediate fan of you or they don't trust you, it's really important to actively listen to find out what their needs are. I often will sometimes do the following after we converse about something. I'll say something like this. So what I hear you saying is you need this, to really make sure that I'm crystal clear on what their needs are. Then I will probably follow that up with email communication, a very brief email, just summarizing what we talked about. And then as I'm doing the work, I will be sure to provide ongoing conversation, ongoing examples of how I'm meeting certain milestones or benchmarks along the way to fulfilling whatever the ultimate goal is. It's not going to solve all interpersonal dynamics, and you still do want to be available for those face-to-face conversations. I think it's a great idea to also pick up the telephone if you're all over the place and you're not in the next cubicle with someone, to reiterate what you just communicated in the plan and in your email correspondence. I guess my answer is you can never do too little in terms of communicating out what's being done and how you're meeting the specs of the project.
Yeah, I love that. Over communication is key. I'll bounce down to you, Lisa. Thoughts?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with John in terms of, and this is where I went back to my first point of active listening. John addressed the understanding their needs, wants, and expectations. Because once you do, you can solve their problems. It's, putting on that servant leadership hat, understanding the challenges that they have with you, because sometimes you can solve those. Sometimes you can't. There's nothing you can do about it. And kind of being honest about that, saying, hey, here are the things that I can solve. Here are the things that I can't. But that active listening, as to John said, is understanding where they're coming from and helping them, helping solve whatever that is. Sometimes people just need to be heard and their issues and challenges addressed, because they may think that you don't care and you aren't going to help them. People want their initiatives and their desires addressed and help them succeed in the working environment. So if you can come with that forward, then you can solve a lot of the problems because they're I-centric. So come forward and say, hey, I'm here to help and serve, and use that active listening. And to John's point, that how can I address your needs, wants, and expectations? But again, sometimes you can't solve everything.
Yeah, that's true. You do the best you can, right? Anna, your thoughts?
Yes. In addition to all these, very good points, it's always important to really decipher what the issue is. What is really the problem that is trying to, is surfacing or is in the way, etc. Because sometimes we assume that we have an understanding of what the challenge is, and the challenge for that particular individual in their perception is completely different. So defining and operationalizing exactly what the challenge is probably step number one, in addition to all the good stuff that has already been said. The second piece is, once you identify it, what are the parts going to do relative to moving towards solution? Okay, we identified that the challenge is that this particular vendor is doing A, B, and C, and we have these issues or these challenges. So what are we going to do? What are you going to do? What am I going to do? By when, etc. And it has to be there has to be a way to get to a certain date when all of this is solved. To Lisa's point and to John's point, there are some issues and there are some challenges that may be more on a personal side. Somebody maybe already have a completely deteriorated relationship because of lack of trust that has been accumulating over time. And therefore, rather than addressing something in zero to solve, you're addressing a situation starting in -20. So always be in the know, try to understand and operationalize as more what are you trying to address.
Love it. Absolutely. Great stuff. All right. I want to switch gears because we've got, speaking of business relationships from a slightly different slant, Catherine Roy posted this, and I think it's a great question. The challenge I face is access to people who are in a position to be a sponsor or champion, a seat at the table, A seat at those tables is oftentimes restricted to higher level employees only, for example, and there are only a few networking ops for lower entry level individuals. How do I overcome this? So I think if I paraphrase what I'm hearing from Catherine is there are people that I want to build business relationships with that are, a level or two higher than me. How do I get to them? How do I get them to connect with me, so that I can expand my network and obviously raise my own level up? Any thoughts on that? Anyone want to start? Lisa, you're nodding. I'll pick on you first.
Yeah, I think it's about just reaching out, connecting with them, and whether it's in the company or outside a company with somebody else, is reaching out to say, hey, I'd love to set up some time and just pick your brain, and telling them why you're a fan of them, their work, or whatever it is, so that you can get them engaged. But then say, do you have 15 minutes for a quick chat? I'd love to ask you XYZ and get your thoughts on this. And then start trying to build a relationship that way and say, I'd love to learn more from you. Can we connect on an ongoing basis? Once a month, once every other month, because people are busy, but start to build the rapport that way. But let them know why you're a fan, and that, you would love to get ideas on something specific so that they know what it is you're looking for, and that you don't want a lot of time, but, set the parameters of what you're looking for.
I love that you're talking about managing the expectations, because busy executives do not have time. You really need to be clear with them, like you said, that you're not going to take up a lot of their time, that you're specific in your intent. I love that framework. And I saw you nodding. What do you have to say on this subject?
Yes. As I was thinking on what Lisa was saying, which is spot on, I was just thinking, in addition, is there somebody else, Catherine, that potentially might be that might make an introduction to that particular individual, that might help you get there? That would be one piece. That's one of the opportunities that we have through LinkedIn, as an example. The other thing is, and this is what I need, these are the three things that I would like to go over with you in that conversation, ABC, whatever these may are for this 15-minute conversation, etc. And then, is there anything that I can do for you? I'm open to do that. Something like that might also provide an opportunity for them to say, well, what could Catherine do for me, or Anna do for me? You never know.
I love that. It's so true. I mean, just being respectful enough, 99% of the time they'll probably say, I can't think of anything, but you never know. Right. And if you're actively looking for a way to serve them back, it's really, really smart. Great stuff. John, you got anything to add for Catherine?
I do. So I don't know what Catherine's work environment is like, but if Catherine is in a working environment where she could present these questions and interests to higher management, because we've been talking about how the individual, such as Catherine, can be proactive in reaching out to others whom she sees as leaders or mentors or potential mentors. But her question makes me think about what our organizations are doing to formalize this process. And it's not just a feel-good thing to do for our employees, but if our employees have the mentorship they need, they could actually be part of a succession plan, in terms of leadership in the organization. So I would ask or suggest, Catherine, if that relationship is there, to present this interest to senior management, and then see how senior management could actually put the systems and processes in place to formalize a mentorship program at the same time.
Oh, I love it. Great feedback. Catherine, I hope that helped. So I've got one more question I want to take down here. As simple as it is, it really hit me, and I want to find it, and I want you all to comment on it, which was from Cesar. Cesar says, how do you make people feel that their opinion is important? I mean, that is a huge aspect of business relationships. You've all talked about the active listening part of it, really paying attention. But what other things can you say or do to make sure they know that they're being heard? Anna, can I have you go first?
Absolutely. And thank you, Cesar, for bringing that up. I was thinking that, if I'm on the receiving end of that of that possibility or that opportunity, I would potentially invite that person to provide input, feedback, be part of the project, even though it's a little, a given project that I'm working on, etc., so that their perspective, okay, you provided us these phenomenal framework, then or thought process or what have you. Why don't you come over and explain it to us 30 minutes next Wednesday? You explain it to the team that is working on it. I mean, that's tangible, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Such a good idea. Lisa, what about you?
I'm always working with cross-functional folks, having brainstorm sessions, and people are coming constantly with ideas. And so one of the things that I do is I'm taking notes. And when people come with ideas, I, say, thank you. That's a great idea. I will reiterate the idea. I will say, how I think that could be utilized. I will follow up with notes to say, hey, here's the idea. I will follow up how the idea was implemented or used. And to Anna's point, I love the fact of taking that individual and utilizing that individual to present to upper management, or even recognizing that individual to say, this idea came from this person and we are implementing this idea, or even saying the results that this individual had and the impact to the organization.
Love it. Love it. Love it. John, any thoughts on that?
Definitely. So again, I'm going to go back to systems and processes because I guess that's just the kind of field I'm in. Does the organization have the systems and processes in place to allow for democratic leadership, to allow for distributive leadership purposes and practices? So are the systems in place where the opinions of staff are collected, and does that actually reflect, or is that actually reflected in how an organization goes about meeting its goals? So that's number one strategy, I think, for showing people that their opinion matters, because the end result in how we go about as an organization solving an issue is based on, in part, what the collective stakeholders feel should be the way that we approach reaching that goal. So that's number one. And on a personal level, one-on-one level, if I'm working with someone and I want to make sure that they feel heard and listened to, I will often end a coaching session by saying, and it's not my thing, I learned this from a mentor of mine, and that is asking, is there anything that I should start, stop, or continue doing? And then actually listening and doing what that person suggests.
I love the start, stop, continue model. It's definitely, it's one of those, you hear it, somebody reminds you of it, and you're like, that is something you should implement on a regular basis. Such good stuff. Folks, please jot their names down. Please go find them on LinkedIn. These are our elite executives. They are the ones that are really helping people understand some of the bigger problems in the workplace right now. If you want to learn more about how to become an executive expert, if you think you have what it takes to hang up here with folks like John and Anna and Lisa, please message me here on LinkedIn. I can share a little bit more about how you might become a featured executive expert. But I want to thank the three of you, because time and again, you get on here and drop so many knowledge bombs. You're so good, each of you, at what you do. I feel very grateful to have you on the program. So thank you for that. Folks, until next time, remember, if you want to win, you've got to work it daily. One of the best ways to do that is head over to workitdaily.com, sign up for our daily newsletter, and we will send you reminders about all these great table talks so that you can learn from these pros on a regular basis, okay? All right, everyone, have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you soon.